This headstone belongs to Private Henry or Walter Leroy. Walter was born on July 7th, 1892, in Bertha, Missouri. He was the first of 10 children born to Peter or Pete and Mary Matlock Leroy. When Walter was born, his mother was 18 and his father was 20. Walter grew up near Gentryville in Douglas County, Missouri, where his father worked as a farmer and his mother was a housewife. On August 16th, 1914, when Walter was 22, he married 16-year-old Ella Thompson. A little over a year later, on January 18th, 1916, Ella gave birth to a baby boy, Henry or Elwood Leroy. Ella passed away the next day on January 19th, 4 days before her 18th birthday. Her death certificate stated the cause of death was puerperal postpartum eclampsia. Postpartum preeclampsia is a rare condition that occurs when you have high blood pressure soon after childbirth. Ella had eclampsia, which means her blood pressure had progressed to the point of causing seizures. Ella is buried at New Hope Cemetery. 2 years later, in 1918, Walter's younger brother, Willie Leroy, began his service in World War I. On October 14th, 1918, he passed away in France due to wounds he received in action. 3 months later, in January of 1919, Walter began his service in World War I. Walter was a private in the 29th Field Artillery Regiment, the 10th Division. After returning from serving in the war, the 1920 census showed 27-year-old Walter living with his parents and 3-year-old Elwood living with his Thompson grandparents. 10 years later, 37-year-old Walter is shown on the census living in Chanute, Kansas with 13-year-old Elwood and his new 24-year-old wife, Lula Tetrick. At some point before Walter's death, the family moved back to Douglas County, Missouri. One thing Walter and Lula liked to do after they moved back was dance. The newspaper gossip column reported them attending dances at Topaz, Albert Slate's house, and hosting dances at their own house. Walter passed away on March 27, 1937, at the age of 44. A newspaper article stated he had been staying at the Veterans Hospital in Fayetteville, Arkansas for 4 months due to illness and cancer. His death certificate stated his cause of death was mitral insufficiency, a heart valve disorder, and that he had died at his home. Walter is buried at Yates Cemetery next to his grandparents, his parents, his sisters, and his brothers. He is right next to Willie, and they both have matching military marble headstones. I also cleaned Willie's stone and will be posting that story soon. After Walter passed away, Lula remarried another widower, John Rue Lamb. They would have 4 girls and 1 son together. Lula passed away 20 years later in 1957 at the age of 50 due to a coronary occlusion or blocked artery. Lula is buried at Eaton Cemetery with Rue and their infant son. Walter and Ella's son Elwood married Elva Cooley, and they had 3 children together. Elva and Elwood moved to Louisville, Nebraska, where he worked as a carpenter and woodworker. He passed away in 1991 at the age of 75 and is buried at Riverview Cemetery in Nebraska with Elva. This is the only photo I was able to find of Walter. The photo label said this photo is of him and his second wife, Lula Tetrick. Here are the before and after shots of his headstone. The after shot was taken 4 months after I cleaned it. Thank you for your service to our country, Walter. And thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.